The email arrived while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office overlooking downtown Seattle. Mom had sent it to the entire extended family with the subject line, "Exciting news, professional family photo session." I scrolled through her enthusiastic message about hiring an elite photographer who specializes in successful families, for what she called legacy portraits. The session was scheduled for Saturday at the country club, with specific instructions about attire, timing, and who should attend. My name wasn't on the list. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom's voice carried that forced brightness she used when delivering bad news she'd convinced herself was reasonable. "Maya, honey, I know you saw the email. I wanted to explain personally." I set down my pen and leaned back in my ergonomic chair, the one that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Explain what exactly?" "Well, the photographer has a very specific aesthetic. She caters to accomplished families, people with visible success. You understand? Visible success." I glanced around my office at the awards lining the walls, the Harvard MBA diploma, the framed newspaper clipping from when my cybersecurity firm had been acquired by Google for $320 million. Apparently, none of that qualified as visible. "The photographer looked at our family portfolio," Mom continued, "and she felt that including everyone might dilute the overall message of achievement." "What message would that be?" "You know, prosperity, establishment, traditional career success. Your sister Amanda's law practice, your brother Tyler's medical residency. Real professional accomplishments." Real professional accomplishments. Amanda was a junior associate at a mid-tier firm, making $60,000 a year and drowning in law school debt. Tyler was in his second year of residency, earning $35,000 annually while working 100-hour weeks. I'd sold my company 18 months ago and now ran a venture capital fund specializing in cybersecurity investments. My personal net worth exceeded 8 figures. But apparently that wasn't real enough for family photos. "Besides," Mom added, "your work is so technical. It's hard to explain to people. Amanda's a lawyer. Everyone understands that. Tyler's going to be a doctor. Very prestigious. You're in computers." Computers. As if I were fixing broken laptops in a strip mall instead of funding the next generation of security innovations. "The photographer specifically requested families who project traditional success," Mom continued. "She's building her portfolio around established professionals. And I don't qualify as established?" "Oh, sweetie, it's not about qualifications. It's about presentation. Amanda drives that beautiful BMW. Tyler has his stethoscope and medical credentials. What would you bring to represent your achievements?" "What would I bring? Maybe the key to the Tesla Model S Plaid in my parking space downstairs. Or the Patek Philippe watch on my wrist that cost more than Tyler's annual salary. Or simply the fact that I'd built something from nothing and turned it into generational wealth." But those weren't the kind of props Mom was thinking about. "The photographer emphasized visual storytelling," she explained. "We need elements that immediately communicate success. Amanda's borrowing her firm's partner's Porsche for the shoot. Tyler's wearing his Harvard Medical School jacket. They understand the importance of presentation. Amanda was borrowing a car to fake prosperity. Tyler was wearing a jacket from a school he'd attended on loans he'd still be paying off for the next 2 decades. But somehow their borrowed symbols carried more weight than my actual achievements. "I hope you understand," Mom concluded. "This isn't personal. It's about creating the right narrative for our family legacy." Our family legacy. The same family that had dismissed my business as playing with computers, until Google wrote me a check with 8 zeros. "I understand perfectly," I said. After hanging up, I pulled up the Forbes magazine proofs on my computer. The cover story about emerging venture capital leaders was scheduled to run next week. My photo took up 2/3 of the cover with the headline, "Maya Patel, the cybersecurity expert turning entrepreneurs into millionaires." The 6-page feature inside detailed my journey from startup founder to VC partner, complete with quotes from industry leaders calling me visionary and the most strategic investor in security technology. Mom wanted visual storytelling about family success. She was about to get exactly that. I forwarded the Forbes proofs to my assistant with a note. "Please ensure this reaches every major business publication's social media team when it goes live next week." Then I sat back and waited for Saturday's photo session to play out. Saturday arrived with the kind of crystalline autumn weather that made expensive photographers charge premium rates for outdoor sessions. I spent the morning in my home office, which overlooked the same country club where my family was staging their legacy portraits. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see them gathering on the manicured lawn. Amanda stood beside the borrowed Porsche, her rental dress carefully chosen to suggest prosperity she hadn't yet achieved. Tyler posed with his medical bag, a prop he'd bought specifically for the shoot since residents didn't actually carry leather medical bags in real life. Mom and Dad flanked them, wearing the kind of aggressively upscale casual wear that screamed, "Trying too hard," to anyone who understood actual wealth. My phone buzzed with a text from my college roommate, now a tech journalist at TechCrunch. Saw the Forbes proofs. Holy shit, Maya. Cover story. When does this go live? Monday morning, I replied. Your parents must be losing their minds with pride. I glanced out the window again, watching the photographer direct my family into various poses of manufactured success. They're very focused on their own projects right now. Around noon, Mom posted the first photo to Instagram. The family arranged around the Porsche, looking like a tableau from a luxury car advertisement. The caption read, "Blessed to have such accomplished children. Professional photo sessions celebrating our family's success. #blessed, #family success, #grateful." The post received exactly 17 likes, mostly from Mom's book club friends and distant relatives who felt obligated to engage with family content. By evening, Amanda had shared multiple photos on her social media, each with increasingly grandiose captions about family legacy and generational achievement. One particularly cringeworthy post featured her leaning against the Porsche with the caption, "When success runs in the family briefcase sparkles #bosslife, #lawlife, #success." Tyler's posts were more subdued but equally fabricated. Photos of him with his stethoscope, posed against the country club's colonial architecture, with captions about hard work paying off and family values driving professional excellence. None of them had tagged me, of course. As far as their social media presence was concerned, I didn't exist. Sunday morning brought more family photos flooding their feeds. Mom had apparently paid extra for an extended session because the content seemed endless. Photos of them toasting with champagne, laughing around the club's fountain, walking arm in arm across the perfectly groomed grounds. Each post emphasized themes of success, prosperity, and family pride, while carefully excluding the family member with the highest net worth and most prestigious career achievements. The irony was exquisite. Sunday evening, my Forbes editor called to confirm Monday morning's digital release. "Maya, this is going to be huge. The advance buzz has been incredible. We're expecting this to be one of our most shared features this quarter." Any specific metrics you're tracking? Social media engagement is already spiking just from the preview posts. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, everyone's talking about the cybersecurity boom and your role in shaping it. After hanging up, I opened Instagram and looked at my family's photo session posts one more time. Amanda's Boss Life post had gained 3 more likes. Tyler's medical school pride post had been shared exactly once by our grandmother. Mom's Accomplished Children post had been up for 36 hours and had accumulated 22 likes. I set my phone aside and opened my laptop to review the Forbes feature one final time. The article was comprehensive. My background in cybersecurity, the startup I'd built from my dorm room, the acquisition by Google, my transition to venture capital, and my current portfolio of investments that had generated over $1 billion in value. But the real kicker was the sidebar feature, the next generation of tech wealth. It profiled 5 young investors who were building the financial foundations that will define American prosperity for decades to come. Monday morning, the entire business world would see exactly what accomplished looked like. My family's borrowed car photo shoot would seem quaint by comparison. I scheduled a social media post for Monday at 8 a.m., honored to be featured on at Forbes cover this week. Grateful for the opportunity to discuss the future of cybersecurity investment and the entrepreneurs who are building tomorrow's solutions. #grateful, #entrepreneurship, #venture capital. Then I waited for my family to discover what they'd excluded from their legacy portraits. The Forbes digital edition went live at 6 a.m. Pacific on Monday. By 6:15, my phone was buzzing with notifications from LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram as colleagues, industry contacts, and portfolio company founders shared the cover story. By 7 a.m., 3 major news outlets had reached out for follow-up interviews about venture capital trends and cybersecurity investment. At 8 a.m., my scheduled social media post went live across all platforms. The Forbes cover photo, me in my office surrounded by the genuine symbols of success, began spreading through tech and business networks. The contrast with my family's weekend photo shoot couldn't have been more stark. My phone rang at 8:47 a.m. Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again at 8:52. And 9:03. And 9:15. Finally at 9:30 I answered. Why, Mom's voice was strained, uncertain. Did you see the Forbes magazine thing? Which Forbes magazine thing? With your picture. On the cover. It says you have a company worth $320 million, yes. That was the acquisition price when Google bought my cybersecurity firm. Silence. But how? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell us? I did tell you. You said I played with computers and that it wasn't a real career. But we didn't know about the money, about the Forbes cover. You didn't ask. You were too busy planning photo shoots for successful family members. I could hear rustling in the background, probably Dad grabbing the phone to look at the article online. Maya, we made a mistake, Mom said finally. The photographer. She didn't understand. We should have included you. The photographer understood perfectly. She wanted families with visible success and you decided I didn't qualify. But if we'd known about the Forbes thing. If you'd known I was successful enough to make you look good by association, you mean? More silence. Then Dad's voice in the background. Is that really her company? $300 million. Stat. The company I built while you all assumed I was unemployed and playing video games. Maya, sweetheart. Mom's voice took on that pleading quality she used when she'd been caught in obvious wrongdoing. You have to understand, we thought your work was we didn't realize. You didn't realize because you never bothered to learn what I actually did for a living. Can we redo the photos? She asked suddenly. I could call the photographer. She'd definitely want to include you now. No. Now that my success had been validated by external authority. Now that including me would enhance rather than diminish their narrative. I don't think so, Mom. But the family legacy photos, they're not complete without you. They're exactly as complete as you intended them to be. You got your successful family narrative. Amanda with her borrowed Porsche, Tyler with his medical school props. Everyone looking prosperous and accomplished. Those photos were taken before we knew about Forbes. Those photos were taken after you decided I wasn't successful enough to include in your family legacy. My call waiting beeped. Bloomberg News. I have to go. Financial media outlets are calling for interviews about my computer hobby. I hung up and took the Bloomberg call. 20 minutes later, Tyler called. Then Amanda. Then 3 aunts, 2 uncles and my grandmother. I let them all go to voicemail. The Forbes feature triggered a cascade of media attention that lasted 3 weeks. Harvard Business School invited me to speak at their venture capital symposium. The Wall Street Journal ran a follow-up piece about young investors reshaping Silicon Valley. Forbes themselves requested a quarterly column about emerging technology trends. Throughout it all, my family's weekend photo session lived on their social media feeds like a monument to their poor judgment. Amanda's "When Success Runs in the Family" post, still visible beneath her increasingly desperate attempts to associate herself with my achievements, became unintentionally hilarious in context. Mom deleted her original Accomplished Children post after someone commented asking why the Forbes cover star wasn't included in the successful family photos. The calls and texts continued for a month. Apologies, explanations, invitations to family meetings where we could clear the air. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on the opportunities flowing from the Forbes recognition. 2 pension funds wanted meetings about cybersecurity investments. The Commerce Department requested my input on technology security policy. 3 Fortune 500 companies offered board positions. 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation from a cousin I barely knew. Under adults-only reception, someone had handwritten a note. Maya, would love to have you in our family photos. You're our success story. I declined politely and sent an expensive gift. Some people never learn that respect earned through fear isn't the same as respect earned through understanding. But at least now they knew exactly how much their exclusion had cost them. My legacy portraits turned out just fine without them.